All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Coach's Cup. And welcome to my guest coach, Carla Moats. Carla, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Sonya, for having me. I'm Carla Moats. I am a life and business coach, and I work with women mostly over 45 who feel stuck in their life or their career and their business. And I help them get unstuck and accomplish big things. Thank you
Yeah.
again for having me today.
And Carla and I met, I guess we're going on a couple of years ago in No BS, right? You joined April 2019 in the.
I joined in April of 2019, so I'm going on. In fact, next week will be my 2-year anniversary.
Yeah. So that's fun too. But today we're going to talk about how to achieve any goal. And I think this is something that's near and dear to your heart because you have had several goals that you've been working on. You've had some fitness goals, some weight loss goals, some business goals, as we all have. But I think that's why one of the reasons this topic was special to you, right?
Yes, and I coach a lot. A lot of the clients that come to me, that's often why they're coming to me is they have some type of goal. It could be weight loss. It could be a business goal, career goal, and they're just not sure how to accomplish it, or maybe they don't have a goal. Their kids are leaving the house, and they're like, what's next? And they maybe set a goal, and then what happens is they get goal burnout, which is really frequent. I mean, people, especially the first of the year, people set their New Year's resolutions, and it's kind of a joke when you go into the gym. The gym gets really busy for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then around Valentine's Day, the gyms clear out because people have burnt out, or they lost their motivation. So I really I think there's processes and things that you can do that really aren't part of the mainstream education around goals that are really critical to actually achieving what you want to achieve.
Yeah, well, let's jump right in. We're going to give, for listeners, if you're taking notes, we're going to give you 4 steps today on how to achieve any goal. So the first step is you have to believe it, that you can achieve it, right?
Yeah, I think that's critical, because if you don't believe in your goal, and I'm assuming that your listeners that follow you know that ultimately what you think is what drives your how you feel, which drives how you show up in life, and ultimately create your own results. So, really put your goal in your result line, and you have to believe that you're going to reach your goal. And I think I see this a lot. I do a lot of weight loss coaching. I see this a lot with people who have weight loss goals. Is I don't really think, I've tried so many diets before.
Yeah.
And I've never really, or I reach my goal, but I can't keep it.
Right.
But if you don't believe in your goal, who will? And so the very first thing you have to do is have your own back, and believe that you're going to do it, and think about, whatever your goal is, if your goal is to build a, $100,000 a year business, what do you need to believe each day, that week, to make that goal a reality? So it's really about managing your mind, because that is what, on the days that you have a setback, or the days, if you're running, maybe your goal is running, and the days you wake up and it's raining outside, you really don't want to go run. Though, that belief in yourself is what keeps you going.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that we've talked about before, Judith and I on the podcast, I think, and that I talk about in coaching, is that people set a timeline for their goal. And if it's getting close to the timeline and they haven't reached it, or it looks like they're not going to reach it, then many times they'll just drop the goal. But you should never drop your belief that you can get there.
Yeah, I mean, the timeline is just an arbitrary thing that you
Right.
set.
Move
And
the
audience,
timeline.
I've been a member of No BS for 2 years, and honestly, if anybody had told me, when I joined No BS, that 2 years later I still wouldn't be at my goal weight, I would have probably been discouraged. But I'm still keep showing up. I keep, you keep at it. Your
Mhm.
timeline is just an arbitrary time construct that we have.
Yeah.
And often I will hear, people who say, maybe they may have set a weight loss goal that I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 3 months. And so they get to say the 2 month mark and they know they've lost weight, but they know that realistically, they're probably not going to hit 30 pounds. Maybe they've lost 10. They're not going to lose 20 pounds in a month. They're like, well, maybe I should just change my goal and make it 20 pounds. And I always advocate, don't change your goal, change your timeline.
Yes.
Because your goal is still 30 pounds. And it doesn't really matter, when you get there. One of the things I'll often ask clients when they're struggling with this, that I'm making progress, but I'm not making progress at the pace that I'd like, whether it be a running goal or a business goal, is imagine that you were already at that goal, your future self.
Yeah.
What would your future self tell you now? Your future self isn't going to care. Future self isn't, my future self, when I'm at my goal weight, isn't going to look back and say, you took too long to get there.
Yeah.
Your future self is going to pat me on the back for continuing to show up, not giving up, and continue to have my back. So ask yourself, what would your future self say to you right now? But yeah, I always advocate, extend your timeline. Don't change the goal itself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's so critical, because if you do just drop your goal, if you do drop that belief, where are you going to be, 2 years from now?
All right. And developing that belief in yourself it's not just about that goal. It's a core.
No.
It just transforms yourself in so many other ways. The fact that I haven't given up on my weight loss goal, even though I may not be achieving it at the pace I want, it translates in so many other areas of my life, because I have other goals, like I've started my business, and it's once you start to have that belief in yourself, that self-confidence that one way or the other you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
It just transforms into other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the second step to achieving your goal is to know your why. And it's not just one why. I think both of us advocate for coming up with quite a few of them. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, usually one of the things I do myself, and I also do with my clients, is brainstorm a list of at least 20 whys, 30 whys. I actually think it's a good idea then to journal on them. I actually got that coaching myself. Once I was working with somebody, they're like, I want you to come up with 30 whys. And then every day for the next month, I want you to journal on that why, because that journaling exercise by itself brings up a lot of new whys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the why is it important in the context of your life? And again, people say, I want to lose weight. You want to lose weight? Because I want to be healthier. Well, what does healthy look like to you? What does that mean? And don't judge your whys. You can have, I think people do that a lot.
They do.
They're like, well, and I even see that in the business space. Well, money's not the most important thing to me. Yeah. And they don't like to put the money sometimes as the number one, as one of their goals, because they're like, well, I'm doing this for other reasons. I want to spend time with my kids or whatever. But don't judge your whys, because every why serves a different purpose. And that way too, because what the why does is, on a day that you're not feeling well, on a day where you're not really feeling motivated, on a day where maybe you've had some setbacks, and again, let's use weight loss as an example. On a week that your scale went up a little bit, it's easy to, fall into some old habits, and that why keeps you grounded, and it lets you say, okay, it's just a blip on the radar, and it keeps you showing up for yourself. Have a lot of whys, and don't judge your whys, and really think about why it matters in the context of your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. That people have this idea that their whys have to be so noble. If I want to make a lot of money, it's so I can help out, give to some charity or something like that. And that's wonderful. I don't want to cut that down. It's wonderful to want to lose weight for your health. But there's also nothing wrong with having a few shallow whys in there,
And one of my
I
whys
want a nice car, or I want to, go on a trip.
Yeah, one of my whys is I want to be able to go into any boutique clothing store
Mm-hmm.
and not have to wonder if they carry my size.
Yeah.
And because if you're overweight, that's something you get used to. Is okay. I go into the store. Well, do they carry, do they
Yeah.
carry size plus size, or do they carry size 14s or whatever? I want to be able to go
Right.
into any store. And I did. I judged that. I judged that for a while.
Uh-huh.
But it's just something, I want to be able to walk in any store. I want to be able to go shopping with friends
Mm-hmm.
and not have to take them to a different store to shop for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So have them all, list them all. And, if to come up with 20 or 30, a few of them are going to have to be shallow, I think. They can't all
yeah,
be
and
noble.
you can do the 5 whys too. So why do you want to create a business? Because I want to be able to leave my corporate job. Or why do you want to be able to leave your corporate job?
Right.
Because I want to be location independent. Why do you want to be location independent? I'm kind of going through my own examples,
Yeah.
but just keep asking yourself why 5 times,
Mhm.
and you'll have your 20
Drill
reasons.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have your 20 reasons in no time.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So point 3 is that you've already talked a little bit about the future me, future you, and what she's going to say to us and why that's important in belief. But point 3 is that the transformation happens along the journey, not at the end.
yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest mistakes or misnomers about goals is people think when they get to the goal, that's what's going to make them happy.
Yeah.
And it's not, that's not, it's you step into your future identity. A lot of times when I'm, working with clients and I can tell that they think that the transformation happens when they get to their goal, whether it's be that they run a 10K or they've reached their revenue goals or they've reached their weight goal is, if I could snap my fingers and make your goal a reality tomorrow, what's changed? And the reality is nothing's really changed. The change happens in the process. The goal isn't really the goal. The journey is the goal.
Yeah.
And so I love future self work because I think it's really empowering too. Because again, it goes so far beyond just working on any particular goal. But yeah, ask yourself when you're at that goal, what's different about you?
Mhm.
What do you do? How does your day look? How do you manage your time? How do you eat? Where do you eat? Where do you shop? If you're, your business, what habits do you have?
Yeah.
And get detailed. And do it something, you try and revisit, at least once a quarter. But I love, future self work's one of my favorite things to do because it's when you have a feel for who you are, you didn't ask yourself, what can I do each day to step into that person? Because, and again, weight loss, I think, is the conventional thing you can talk about. It's how often do people hit their goal and then they find that, well, I'm not really any happier now
Yeah. I
than
thought
I
this was
was.
going to change everything.
I thought that, that the day I stepped on a scale and was 140 pounds, it was going to be transformational.
Yeah.
That's why so many people actually gain it back
Yeah.
because they haven't really changed the essence of who they are. They haven't changed their identity. They still often identify as that overweight person.
Yeah.
And so they haven't really changed their habits. They haven't changed how they think of themselves. And that is actually why people tend to regain their weight.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've been trying to willpower, especially with weight loss. They've been trying to willpower their way through it. And so they've gotten the weight off, but they don't like anything about the process that they've just gone through.
right. So once you think about and you kind of get this vision of who your future self is, and some people even name that, name that future self.
Right.
Then you can ask yourself each day, what's one thing I can do today to step into that new identity? What thing I can do today to start to become that, that future self? What does that future self person believe? And how can I embody that today? And one of the things they'll find when they do this is that they will, even without reaching the goal, they will find transformation in their life just from the idea of envisioning who this person is and starting to step into it.
Right.
Now. So.
Yeah, no, I think we see that a lot. Like you said, you see it in weight loss, but I see that with clients that they see a huge transformation in just how much more they enjoy their daily lives. And that, I mean, that is better than reaching any end goal, right?
Yeah, and I've definitely seen that in my own journey because, like I said, I'm not at my
Yeah.
goal weight yet, but I've weighed far less than I weigh now,
Hmm.
but I was never happy at
Hmm.
that weight. I'm happier now, um, 50, 60 pounds for my goal weight
Yeah.
than I ever was when 20 years ago when I was actually at my goal weight,
Yeah.
because it's just changed how I think about myself, how I talk to myself, and just your own self concept.
Hmm. And I think it bears repeating too that, to get yourself in that mindset, you talked about what it takes to get into that mindset of transformation. You got to journal. You have to journal about it every day. And I push that with my clients a lot. You have to be writing about that future self. You have to be writing about those things and practicing them, because especially at first, it's much easier to let that habit brain take over and slip back into those old ways of thinking. And you really have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, you're basically rewiring your brain,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like how it's learned to talk to yourself, talk to
Yes.
it over. Again, my clients are, typically 45 or over, so they've been
Hmm.
talking to this way to themselves, a certain way to themselves since they were probably, hit puberty,
Yeah.
and so you're rewiring yourself. And again, in weight loss, there's typically a story that I'm big boned.
Uh-huh.
I could lose weight, but I can't keep it off. I
Hmm.
just love food, things
Yeah.
like that. And you start to rewire those stories. But it takes consistent application of it
Hmm.
to change those, to recondition,
Yeah.
and rewire your brain.
Is there anything that you talk with your clients and work with your clients on other than journaling? Do you do meditation or anything like that?
I'm not really in much of a meditation person, but like some of my best thinking time I do out in nature.
Mm,
I'm a big
yeah.
hiker, so I'll often go out and even you can, like, I call it journaling in your head. I have a very robust internal dialogue. I think maybe it's a matter of having been single for many, many years before I had my daughter. So I live by myself, and I have a very robust
Yeah.
internal dialogue. My mom jokes, is like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'll kind of be muttering to myself. So even then, I get some of my best ideas when I'm out in nature, and um, thinking about how you want your life to look, or closing your. One of the things I'll do a lot of times do with my clients is close your eyes,
Hmm.
and I want you to imagine that you're at your goal. I don't know if that's really meditation, but a lot of visualization work. I want you
Oh
to imagine
yeah,
you're at your goal,
absolutely.
or I want you to imagine yourself. And I run. One of my goals this year is to do a 10K. I've only done 5Ks so far. And visualize yourself crossing that line,
Hmm.
for the 10K. How do you feel? Who are you? How are you different? What are you wearing? What's the expression on your face? What's going through your brain right as you do? So I do a lot of visualization work, more so than, than meditating, but I know
Yeah.
meditating, does work for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, and you can visualization and meditation, they kind of all cross paths. I will tell you, I'm an only child, and I talk to myself a lot too. In fact, I have quite a drive in to work every day to school, and I talk to myself on the drive because I'm like, nobody's going to think I'm crazy. They're just going to think I'm on my phone.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things now about phones is you put it up on your dashboard and people think that you're talking to the phone. But yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
I've just always had a pretty robust internal dialogue.
Yeah.
And that, so it's been really important to me too, as part of my working on goals, is to work on that, because my internal dialogue at one point wasn't very particularly healthy. It
Oh,
was,
absolutely.
there would be a lot of shaming, and there would be a lot
Yeah.
of negative self-talk, and that's actually, doing a lot of the belief work,
Hmm.
and a lot of the future self work. Is I really don't have that anymore. And it's been about 2 years where
Yeah.
I've really rewired, and I don't have that negative self-talk. And when I do, I catch it right away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I will still have it occasionally, but I am on it like that. I
Well, I
know
think it's
it. I
important to know
recognize it.
that the negative self-talk itself isn't the issue. It's the
Mm-mm.
issue that you listen to it. So if you
Yes.
can catch it and just say,
Yeah.
that's
Not
just that's just
not
a
listening.
that's just a sentence running through my mind. It's
Yeah.
just a story I have, and I get to decide whether or not I give any credence to it. It's like, if I'm out running, I hear people say they go out running, and there was somebody posted on Facebook today that they were out running, and somebody rolled down their window and said, you really need to join Noom. And you're like, if that was me, I'd be thinking, who is this person? Why does their opinion matter? So in
Yeah.
the times that you have that negative self-talk, I have the kind of same approach, who are you? Why does your opinion, why does that opinion even matter?
Yeah.
Who asked for who asked for your input? So just realize it's just a thought,
Mhm.
that you're having, and you get to decide what you want to think.
Yeah. Yeah, and just turn that off because we don't know why they felt like they had to say that anyway. So, the last step is to take massive action. And, a lot of people, they're like, "Well, I don't even know what massive action means. What do you mean?" To even believe is massive action to me. So, how do you coach your clients on massive action?
To me, massive action is that you're that you're just not giving up. You're excuse me, you're continuing to tweak what you do.
Yeah.
If you did so, again, go back to that example where you had the goal of 30 pounds in 3 months, and you get
Mhm.
to month two, well, you lost 10 pounds. Massive action is I'm just going to keep going until I hit my 30 pounds. I'm not going to change my goal. I'm just going to extend the period of my goal. And
Mhm.
again, I'm sitting here, 2 years in, and I'm still showing up. I'm not giving up.
Mhm.
So you don't fail at a goal until you quit trying.
Quit. Yes.
And so the massive action is just to keep at it. One of the things I like is the evaluation process that says
Uh-huh.
what worked, what didn't work, what are you going to do differently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's easy to get stuck in a routine and think, well, I've been doing this. I've been trying to lose weight and, nothing works. Well, when was the last time you really tried something different? When was the last time, you really put something different in the queue for that week?
yeah, and it's you just don't give up, and you just keep trying.
Mhm.
You just keep trying different things.
Yep.
And like I said, one of the things I've recently done for just about everything in my life is I use that evaluation process,
Uh-huh.
because a lot of times two people will keep doing the same thing each time.
Yeah.
If it's not working, try something different, switch things up a little bit. But it's really just a matter of sticking with it. And I think this is where the work on the beliefs becomes really critical,
Mhm.
because if I had not worked on my belief that if I just keep showing up, eventually I can get to my goal weight, I
Mhm.
would I would have given up a long time ago. So really, the massive action and the beliefs really go hand in hand, because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have your own back, if you don't have the self confidence that you're just going to figure it out, um, you're probably not going to continue to take massive action. There will be a point at which you'll say, "Well, why bother?" So
Yeah.
it's those beliefs are just go hand in hand with the massive action.
Can you give me a specific example of an evaluation like that you've recently done on something and how you evaluated it and tweaked it?
Well, I actually learned this from Stacy Bayman's sales coaching program. And I use it when I do a consult or even when I do a coaching session with a client.
Mhm.
What worked in that, because each coaching session is a little different. What
Mhm.
worked in that coaching session? What tools did I use? How did I show up? What worked? And then what didn't work? So were we off on the energy? I have kind of a list of things that I want to do as a coach. I want to hold space. I want to not have an agenda. I want to actively listen to the client. I want to help her see her thoughts. And so kind of go through that list and say, um, you know, which of those worked, which didn't work, and then what I want to do differently. So I use this for my consults. I use this for my coaching sessions, and I use it in my weight loss. I actually have my own, I plan my food every day, and I have 3 questions at the end of each day is what worked, what didn't work, what am I going to do differently? And so that what am I going to do differently is a big part of your massive action. It's, so did I eat something that wasn't on my plan? So what can I do differently tomorrow that would maybe make it easier to stick to my plan? Or did I not sit with an urge? Did I just satisfy the urge? So what could I do to allow myself to sit with the urge? So, but yeah, I use it. I use it with my daughter. She had a test last week that she didn't get the result on that she wanted. And I said, okay, I want you to write down I want you to go down now, right now, look at your results. I want you to write what did you do well on the test? What didn't you do well? And knowing what you know now, how are you going to prepare for your next test differently? So I use it pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
More.
And
That's
what a
really
gift, to give to young people. I mean, if we could have had the gift of thought work when we were that age, I think that would have just been, I wish that I had it because,
I say the same thing. I was like, I wish somebody had told it me when I was, heck, even 14 or 15, but certainly when I was 20, 25, that, that the circumstances in life were just neutral. I get to decide what I think about them. And I know, we've been, in COVID for over a year. My daughter is just going back to school 5 days a week, in about a week. And she's done really well. And I think a lot of it has had to do with just things she's absorbed, because she's much better at, I think, picking, deciding what she wants to think, about COVID, about being in remote schooling. So it is a really powerful tool. And if you can introduce your kids to it, I think it's great. And kids just absorb what's around them. So it's not like I've actually sat down to her and taught her the model or anything. It's just that she's seen me apply different things, or I'll ask her questions like, well, what do you want to think about this, your score on the test? But it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we always try to leave our listeners with a little call to action. And so I think the thing that I would say this week is for our listeners to think about that goal, because if they're listening to a coaching podcast, then there's a chance that they have something that they're really wanting to work toward or wanting to achieve. So sit down and think about these 4 steps that we've just gone through. Do you believe it's possible? And if not, how can you examine that and how can you change that up? Do you have whys that are going to fit in any situation? They're not all noble. Maybe some of them are just fun. What do you believe about your future self? Do you think about her? Do you have her in your head? Is she an image that you can see at any moment? Do you talk to her maybe when you're in your car, when you're in traffic? And then the last thing is to take that massive action and not give up. Because like you said, as long as you don't quit, as long as you don't just drop it and walk away from it, then you're making progress. And I love this because, all of this is a journey. None of us have this perfect person, I think, at the end that we plan to be. We're just reaching those goals along the way to make life a little bit better incrementally as we go. Is there anything you'd like to follow up with? Anything that...
No, I would just say, to me, one of the biggest things is just to ask yourself each day, what do I need to believe to, whatever your goal is? And maybe it's just a goal, for that particular day. Maybe you have a presentation at work and you just want to kick it out of the ballpark. You just want to rock it. So ask yourself that day, what do I need to believe about myself to make that goal for that day happen? Maybe you have a goal that you want it to stick to your food plan for the day. What do I need to believe about myself to do that today? Because the belief work is by far the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. It's the biggest self-care you can ever do for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I teach technical writing to students, and a lot of my students are engineering students who are not really comfortable. You know, you think of the stereotypical engineer, they don't really want to get up and speak, but speaking, giving presentations is one of the things we work on. And I tell them, what do you need to believe about yourself to do well in this presentation? And so I even have brought it into the classroom with them. And, I think they see a difference in that because it gives them an anchor.
Yeah, and I do that with my daughter.
Yeah.
She has a math test. What do you need to believe about yourself? What do you want to believe? How do you want to think about this test? What do you want to believe about yourself as you go into this test today? So yeah, I mean, if you do no other work other than belief work in terms of
Yeah.
how do you want to show up in life, what do you want to believe about yourself, it's the most powerful thing you can do.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, Carla, thank you. If listeners want to get in touch with you and coach with you, how do they do that?
They can find me on Instagram at Carla Moats Coaching, and they can also email me carla@carlamoats.com. And I really appreciate you having me here.
Oh
And
no, it's been fun.
I really I've enjoyed this. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
no, I have too. It's been fun. Like I said, I guess we met in person for the first time about what, almost a year ago.
It's
And so,
last June when we went. My
yeah,
daughter and I were camping in the Smoky Mountains.
yeah. So this is fun that we actually get to do this. All right. Well, listeners, we'll be back again next week. Thank you for joining us. You can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com, and I'll see you next week on the Coaches Cup.